My number one concern is there's been a complete, utter, total abdication of personal responsibility throughout our entire society. I don't think that anyone anywhere is taking blame themselves for what they did to contribute to the crisis. And I think that, again, it gets back to that blame game. I think it's the most damaging thing we can do as a country, is to blame a narrow set and not look within ourselves for what each of us did or didn't do to basic wrong that led to this mess.
You're saying from the average mortgage broker all the way up to the Federal Reserve?
From the borrower through the average mortgage broker all the way up to the Federal Reserve, through Congress, the president, several presidents. I think this has been coming for a while, and there's been a lessening of the credit standards over a period of time that's ultimately led to the kind of blow-off top that we had.
Well then, what's your take on the housing market right now, and what's going on in the housing market right now?
It's an artificial market. There are a tremendous number of homes where the homeowner, I think it's somewhere between 2.5 and 3 million homes where the homeowners are more than 9 months past due and are not getting notices that they're past due. They're just living there for free. And I actually know one that's been there for a few years without having to pay anything. And I think that Fannie and Freddie are basically being used as special purpose vehicles by our government to support the housing market. The private mortgage market is practically non-existent. 96, 97% of mortgages are flowing through Fannie and Freddie now. I think Fannie and Freddie are exercising a tremendous amount of power over the market by withholding properties from sale and not forcing the foreclosure process. I think that it'd be best if the government just completely got out of the mortgage market and let the housing, because home prices are a function of income and the leverage applied.
There's an economic myth that the investing process is purely rational, and like everything that the economics profession likes to profess, it's based on assumptions that generally don't equate to reality. If you look at my screen, you can see almost every day euphoria or panic, herd mentality. There's no getting away from, I think, human analysis and interpretation. I mean, I'll give you an example. So when the securitization data started to deteriorate, my conclusion was it's over. The housing bull market is over, housing prices are going to go down, there's going to be massive losses. That was my conclusion. Other people reach a different conclusion. They looked at the data and they said, well, historically the data has been great. This data that was created in 2006 is starting to look bad, but it's probably just what they call the burnout problem. We'll burn out the few bad loans, and then we'll be back to where we were. And it wasn't until over a year later that they realized that they were wrong, but it was too late. I wrote a report when I was on the sell side in 1994 about the credit card industry, pointing out that there was a massive distribution of income problem in the United States, and that what you were going to see was a big growth in subprime credit cards because that's where the bodies were. So this is not a new problem. It's a very old problem. It's taken 30 years of evolution for people to finally realize it's a problem, but you could have seen this if you were looking carefully 20 years ago. I'm going to leave aside the stock market for a moment. If you look at housing since World War II, although there have been pockets where housing prices went down. So for example, Texas went down, I believe, in the late 80s, early 90s. But outside of certain regional pockets, housing prices nationally have only gone up since World War II. So by the time the crisis took place, I would say it was consensus that housing prices in the United States go up as if it's a law of physics. It's a little bit like being Noah in the ark. Noah's on the ark, his family is safe, and everybody out there is screaming and drowning. It's not pleasant, but there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, it wasn't like I was quiet. Anybody who wanted to know what I thought, I was speaking it from the rooftops. My wife used to yell at me, begging me when we would go out to dinner with friends. She would say, please do not do the "this is the end of Western civilization" speech. People need to eat. But nobody really cared what I had to say. The hardest thing in the world to do I find, is to try and think outside your own society's paradigm. You know, people like to call that thinking outside the box. I'm talking about something that's broader than that. You know, thinking outside the box is sometimes people are long years short. Thinking outside your society's paradigm is really questioning the underlying assumptions under which everybody seems to operate. It's something that I've tried to do my whole career. Sometimes I'm successful at it, and oftentimes not.
I really believe that the people that could see this coming, that could step apart from the crowd and see this coming, you know, I don't think these people are the people that were the popular guys in high school or the high school quarterback dating the prettiest cheerleader. I think that there's a comfort that the people that acted as I did have with standing apart from the crowd.
Outsiders.
Outsiders.
The closer you got to the system, the harder it was to see what was going on.
I believe that's true.
And you consider yourself an outsider.
Sure, yeah.
In what way?
There's if you're an outsider, you know it, you've lived it. It's all through grade school, in every way. I always felt like my basic understanding of social behavior and basic logic was always so different
Right.
than everybody else's.